Hello, welcome back to my workshop. This is going to be one of my retro repairs where I've brought something tested or faulty from eBay and we try to get it going and then look at what it needs to be restored. This time we're looking at a Spectrum Plus 2. We also have the power supply and a manual. I paid £30 plus delivery and it was listed as dead, not switching on. So we will do some diagnostics on the power supply, check that the voltages are present, do an inspection inside here, look for any signs of damage before we actually try to switch it on. So let's have a closer look at what I brought. So this is the Spectrum. It is a Model 2A. The top was kind of a bit oily, so I've wiped it down and overall it doesn't look too bad. It's got some signs of use, and the plastic on the tape cassette is not so good, like where the adhesive is coming away. I don't see any signs of corrosion on the connectors, just dust. Overall, not too bad. And we have the Plus 2 manual. And then this power supply, which has got some tape on and is missing one of the screws. So this has definitely been opened before. So just like any system, I'm not going to switch this on until I've tested that the power supply actually works and that it outputs the correct voltages. So I would say step one is we are going to take this apart and have a look inside. And we can just pop the top off. So we have our transformer for the mains coming in and then our circuit for the power coming out. This outputs multiple volumes. So we have 5 volt, plus 12 volt and minus 12 volt. So this actually lifts out of this quite easily. And the reason that I've done that is so I can flip it over and we can check the voltages on the bottom of the circuit board. Looking inside, I don't see any cracked or bulging caps. And from what I've understood, these are not too bad and not something that I was told needed to be capped. Let's check the fuses in the plug and in the power supply. So we've got my trusty Vici. So the fuse is okay in the plug. Let's check the fuse inside the power supply. So it seems that the fuse inside the power supply is dead. Right, let's have a closer look with the second camera. You can see that the fuse holder is misshapen and the fuse is pushed all the way down and that part there is damaged. So I'm going to replace the fuse holder and we'll replace the fuse and then we'll try switching it on and see what happens. All right, let's flip this over. So hopefully mine will fit. There's on the PCB, so there are 2 solder places for the fuse holder. And the one that I've got will fit on the outside too. So I'm going to use solder braid. Some IPA on a cotton swab. This has definitely had some work before from like the flux that's been left on. So we'll need to clean this board up at some point. We now have our new fuse holder. And our new fuse. So let's pop the cover on. Put the back of this plug back on. And we can give this a try. So I'm still going to keep it this way. So that we can get to the points on the bottom. And we have ground running along here. 5 volt is just there. And I believe it's plus and minus 12 volt. There and there. So we've got the meter set to DC voltage. We need to be very careful now. We've got live mains on the back of this transformer. We've got our switch ready to go, which will trip out if there's any issues. There is nothing around the power supply that could short out or cause any troubles. We're going to, first of all, switch it on, make sure that nothing happens. If it's okay, nothing pops or smokes, then we will take some measurements. So there we go. So that is now switched on. Not seeing any smoke, there's no smell, and the RCD is okay, it didn't trip. So we now have our ground and 5 volt. And we have 5.05. We have minus 12 volt. And we have 12 volt. So I feel happy enough to actually plug this into the Spectrum. So next, we'll take a look inside the Spectrum. All right, let's have a look inside this. We have the power and LEDs for the tape unit. Then we have the connectors for the keyboard. So that just needs putting through the little slot, and then that holds together. So that's the tape drive. I do have a cap kit for the tape drive and the Spectrum. Whether or not I'm going to put the cap kit on the tape drive, I don't know, because I still have my DivMMC. I can see that there's quite a lot underneath the keyboard, so we will have to take the keys out and clean everything up. Now we're on to the actual board itself. This is an Amstrad build, 1988 issue 1. Doesn't look too bad, just a little bit dusty, so we can give this a good scrub. The one thing that I want to check is the power connector and all of these connectors across the back for dry joints, because I believe that is another problem. From what I've been told, if the joints go bad on the power socket, that can be seen as disconnecting the power lead. And because there's no actual power switch on the Spectrum or the power supply, if it's switched on, you pull the power lead out, that could possibly be the cause of the fuse going in the power supply, because of the way that it disconnects the power. So if there are bad joints on the power socket, that would be the same as pulling the power lead out, which could be why the fuse is gone. So let's pop the board out and have a look underneath and check for bad solder joints on these connectors. I don't have my anti-static set up for this, so I'm just being very careful to not touch anything sensitive. The inside of the case is not too bad, no signs of spillage, just dust mainly. Right, we've got the board out. Now we can see the pins on the bottom. And again, this board has had some work. There's definitely flux been left in a few places, so we'll have to clean those all up. Some of those joints don't look particularly good, but let's just reflow them all anyway. I'm going to scrub the whole board later, so I will clean up all of the board when I do that. So I'm not going to do those that I've just reflowed for the moment. Let's just get it back in the case. Right, so again, I'm being careful not to touch anything because I don't have my anti-static mat down. But we'll just pop the board back in. Right, okay. So I'm just going to get the camera set up so that we can see the screen. So I'm going to plug the power supply back into my trip socket and make sure that it's switched off. Plug in the power lead to the Spectrum. I'm using one of my old LCD TVs and I'm just using the aerial. So I think this is already set up for the right channel. So it's just a matter of just trying it out, switching it on. There we go. So not going to get overconfident, but it booted, that's great. So it was just a matter of that the fuse had gone on the power supply, possibly due to bad solder joints on the power connector. So the next step is to just put the keyboard back on and do some basic testing before we start to look at doing all the cleaning. Switch it back off. Got our ribbon connectors. And then the power and the tape connector. Okay, let's give that another go. So our power light is on. Let's do the usual keyboard test. So that looks good. It looks like that the keyboard is working. So I looked in the manual, and if you turn it on while pressing brake, it brings up a test screen. We can see that there's quite a lot of noise going on between the colours. Hopefully the capacitor kits that I brought will help fix that. But then I also brought a SCART RGB lead, which will definitely make it better. The next thing that I want to do is plug in my DivMMC and just try loading something and seeing if it works okay. Right, so I'm just going to make sure that's switched off. This is already set up from a Harlequin that I had. Okay. Let's test out the RGB lead. So, source, external 1. There we go. The DivMMC is loading. So we have blocks. We've got 128K sound, and the screen looks so much better now, nice and sharp. I can't remember how to play it. I wanted to run some diagnostics, and I did a bit of searching, and I found some files that we can use that I can load onto the DivMMC. So if we do the test RAM, it's running this Spectrum Diagnostics. I don't want to run a soak test. I just want to run it. So, diagnostic integrity check, pass. Lower 16K RAM, pass. Spectrum plus 2A version 4.1 ROM, pass. So that says 128K RAM test passed. Let's look at the test ROM. So it looks like that one's not going to run, but at least we've run some diagnostics that says that the RAM and the ROM is actually good. So I don't think I can run the video test with the card in, so let's take that out. Do the video test again. So there was no sound going out the aerial, but we've got sound going through the SCART now. And we can see that we have really nice, clean colours. None of that banding that we were seeing between the colours on there. So that's really good. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the pots home. I can't really do it at the workshop. I don't have easy access to get to the hot water. The sink that we've got is really tiny. So I'm going to take this apart again. I'm going to do the cap kit for the board now. Then I'll take the plastics part home and I'll clean all that up. Got the anti-static mat set up now, and also I'm testing out a new way of recording this kind of work. So we have the Sony up there, and then I've got the Canon, which is really good for close-up. It can do a 5-inch focus, and that's sitting on a rig which sits on the side of the desk, and I can like crouch over the top so you can see my hands. So that is this +2A motherboard, nice and clean. I've replaced the caps, cleaned up the edge connector. So the next time that we will see it will be after I've cleaned the case at home off camera, and we will start to put it back together again. It's the next day. I scrubbed the case at home, cleaned the keyboard, and we've just gone through the time lapse of me putting everything back together. So I've not serviced the tape deck. It looks like it needs quite a bit of work, and I just want to get this back up and working again and maybe do a follow-up video. So we'll leave the tape deck for the moment. The case still has quite a few marks. There's like some initials carved in. The plastic on the cassette unit has like some glue on the edges. So maybe again something for a future project. I don't really want to spend any more money on this as long as it works. So after putting it back together, let's try switching it on. Now we've done the cap kit, so we can compare the before and after footage with the RF signal and see if there's any difference. Okay, let's switch this on. It works, that's good after doing the cap kit. The picture doesn't look too bad. Let's switch it on with the brake key down. To my eye, the bleed in the colours that we saw just here doesn't look any different at all. Could be a number of factors, but I'm not too worried because we can obviously just use it on the RGB. So let's connect the SCART lead back up and take a look at that. Okay, we're back to RGB now. and that picture looks really, really nice. This is such a good game. I really enjoyed playing this when I first got it. No, that's not right. So there we are, that is my zxspectrum Plus 2A cap kit, motherboard cleaned, case cleaned, keyboard scrubbed, put back together and fully working. We haven't done the tape cassette. I think that would warrant a video on its own. Looks like it needs quite a lot of work, and I would need to order a belt drive for it. So we'll maybe do that another time. The case has a few marks on there. There's some initials and a few bits here and there, but overall not too bad. And for what I paid for it, and just for playing games at home, I think it's perfectly fine. Really enjoyed playing BlockZ. Thank you, Raymond. It's such a good game. I'm going to take this home and carry on playing later tonight. Thank you for watching my videos. I really enjoyed cleaning this up over the weekend. Nice, relaxing couple of days. I hope you'll join me in the next video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.